This video was sponsored by Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, use promo code CLNS20 for 20% off of your purchases. Can we talk about Trey Lance? Because what they're doing is kind of crazy. They're playing one game this year, kind of basically so their quarterback can get a look to the NFL, so the NFL can see what he can do in one game. I've never seen, I mean, of course, this whole year has been weird and crazy stuff has happened, but I've never seen anything like that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty weird at first. Like when I first think about it, it sounds crazy. And then I'm like, yo, for the school though, it just makes so much sense. I don't know how much sense it makes for Trey, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, but assuming he's going to play in it, which I'm assuming he is, then, you know, it is what it is. But for the school, man, they're going to get to be on TV at a time where there's not a whole lot of football on. This is a top prospect. It's going to get promoted on ESPN because they're going to talk about Trey Lance. You know what I'm saying? So now, and then it's the school Carson Wentz went to, so that'll add a little bit of intrigue for people who aren't really into like that whole FCS thing. People are going to tune in that wouldn't have tuned in before. It's going to raise the profile of the school, and it's going to help them in recruiting big time because if I'm a prospect that's got to go to it. I went to an FCS school. So if I'm a prospect who got to go to an FCS school, and I know that if I'm that dude, they'll go out of their way to make sure I'm on TV. You know what I'm saying? Think about the scouts that's going to be watching this game.
Yeah,
so
true.
That team already has, obviously, it's Trey. There's also an offensive lineman they have that is an NFL prospect. And who knows, man, you're going to have an opportunity if you're on the team or on the field to be seen. Like if you pop, you might get some interest. You
might
know
get a camp invite
and
you weren't going to get otherwise.
Dude, that's huge. That's a huge sell for a player that's going to go and play on that level. So it's going to help the school tremendously. So yeah, it makes all the sense in the world once you really think about it. It's an odd situation. And for Trey, I mean, personally, I think right now he's probably, I know people are saying he's top 3, but by the time quarterbacks, not pick, but top 3 quarterbacks, by the time they go through all his film and look at his school and all that stuff, if he just had to stand on what he has right now, depending on how many teams need a quarterback next year, true enough. But he's probably like somewhere right in the middle of the first round.
Yeah.
This game can change that dramatically. He could slide to the back end of the first. I don't think he'll slide out of it unless he's just horrible.
He's got more to lose
or he
than
could
gain.
slide to the top. You know what I mean? If he just even though he's not playing anybody, if his physical traits just pop, and then he had the whole thing last year with no interceptions, like that hype is gonna build, and he gonna mess around, or he could mess around and slide into one of them top 5 picks and maybe jump a Justin Fields or something like that. It is possible depending on how this game goes. You know, so there's a lot riding on it. It's a super interesting game, and yeah, I'm gonna definitely be tuned in, man.
Well, as a fan, it's must-watch television. You're like, the pressure's on for him.
The pressure is sky high, and when you gonna get that in your first and last game of your sophomore season? All this pressure, like anytime that's the case, as a sports fan, like that's where you want to be. Like, you know what I'm saying? When the pressure mounts, that's why we love the playoffs and stuff so much. Like this is huge for him. You know what I'm saying? It's going to change the trajectory of his career potentially.
What if he's entirely calm? He handles it well. He just balls out. I mean, does he? I look at him on film. I think he might be actually better than Justin Fields. I know some people think that's blasphemous, but I really love Trey Lance. Do you think he could skyrocket up? How high can he get?
Well, see, you're more of a film guy than me. So to hear you say that is interesting. You know what I'm saying? Because I've read it both ways. I've seen people say that, and then I've also seen people, like you say it's blasphemous. And my whole argument was just that like recency bias is a real thing, man. And so if Trey Lance goes out and plays well, and he's got that fresh tape, we know what Justin Fields has done. Yeah. But they're gonna start to pick Justin Fields apart, and then they're gonna look at Carson Wentz. They're gonna say, "Oh, he went to the same school," and Trey's gonna start to rise. So it can easily happen. Some quarterbacks shoot up the board every year, so it could easily be Trey Lance. You know, depending on how well this game goes. Yeah, if he go out there like you say, he's super poised, go hard, kill everything, does great. Sounds good, confident in the post-game interview. Like, yeah, people going to talk themselves into it. It's only going to take a couple GMs.
First of all, I didn't know you played college football. That's really cool. How dumb is it? Go ahead. No, how silly is it when people look at a quarterback and go, well, they went to the same school, and one guy 10 years ago failed, so this new guy from the same school is going to fail again. There's no one looks at the context. Like, well, Sam Darnold and Carson Palmer played in completely different systems with different coaches and different eras of football for USC. I don't think you can compare them. Am I crazy there?
Yeah. No, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. But like, I don't think. Well, I can't say what people do. For me personally, I wouldn't do it after one guy. But if there's like a clear like history there where you've had several top prospects go to your school and then they go to the NFL and don't pan out.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to at least take that into consideration in your evaluation. Like, I'm not saying that's like the be all end all, but it's got to be in there, you know.
I think the best thing you can do
for some reason this is just not translating to the NFL. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you can do is look at a system. Like you go to Mike Leach quarterbacks often don't work in the NFL, and there's a reason for that. Their style of play often doesn't fit the NFL. Gardner Minshew is kind of an anomaly because of the way he played. He'd been in different systems. He had much more NFL traits than a typical Mike Leach quarterback. But it's kind of funny how, and I think if you're going to criticize anybody and say, well, their system doesn't translate to the NFL, Mike Leach is a perfect guy. I was very close to that organization at Washington, I guess, team in Washington State. I worked on the sidelines a lot. For the most part, their system doesn't translate to the NFL. So I think when people look at a quarterback and go, hey, they're not going to work because of X, it's not the school necessarily. It's usually the system they're coming from.
Right. Yeah.
I want to, before we end things, I want to revisit Trey Lance for 1 second because there was one thing I didn't say about that I don't know if you know the answer to this or not. They're playing one game this year with North Dakota State. Do the players, I would have said his teammates are worried about losing eligibility because are they going to lose 1 year of eligibility for one game?
See, that's a great question. And I actually did think about that when I did my reporting, but because I was just talking about Trey, I didn't super look into it.
Yeah. I have no idea. I don't think they have thought about that either.
I don't know. I've seen some people say they were having this game so that a lot of these guys wouldn't transfer. So
yeah,
that makes me think they're not going to lose eligibility, but I couldn't say for sure. It's a damn good question, though.
Well, also, too, what makes sense, though, is the teammates might go, it's worth the trade-off because we're going to get so many eyeballs on us that we never would have gotten otherwise. They might say it's worth it if we're going to have more scouts watching us play and have an opportunity to showcase our skill set.
I mean, that might be the case for like 3 or 4 guys on the team who think they got a shot to go to the NFL. But if I don't think I got a shot to go to the NFL, I think it's very unlikely. I just want to play as many football games as I can before my career is over. I'm not going to burn a whole year for one game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.